Welcome back to another episode of the Empower Grief Journey podcast. I'm your host, Chris Mamone, and I'm an acceptance coach who helps people heal from grief, loss, and trauma to discover their self acceptance and step into their personal power. This podcast is your dedicated space for healing, growth, and transformation. Each episode shares insightful and inspirational stories, along with practical tools and actionable insights that can help guide you along your healing journey. Today, I have an awesome guest with us. Her name is Stephanie Carmody. She's a seasoned brand and celebrity publicist turned podcast host whose career has spanned over 2 decades across New York, Boston, and Los Angeles. She's worked alongside icons like Kevin Hart, John Legend, Martha Stewart, and produced major campaigns for global brands, and even founded her own boutique event planning company, Trey's Chic Events. Today, Stephanie brings the same creativity and heart to her latest venture, Second Act Sessions, a podcast exploring bold reinventions, real conversations, and what it means to start over with intention, faith, and purpose. And so I'm excited for you guys to hear her story. You guys are going to love her. Stephanie, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much, Chris. Great seeing you again. I'm looking forward to chatting with you.
Likewise, and you have a very powerful story that I'm gonna let you share
Oh,
here. But
thank
I know
you.
you've gone through divorce. You've also had a very
Mhm.
public career in a lot of ways, and you've gotten to
Mhm.
meet all the celebrities we
Mhm.
idolize on TV during the day. But
Yes.
I wanted to start this podcast with you sharing a little bit about your story and your background.
Sure. Well, thanks so much for that wonderful introduction. I feel so special. Yeah, so as you mentioned, my background is in public relations, entertainment, and consumer PR. I did that for, gosh, almost 20 years or so. And I loved it. And to your point, I did work with every celebrity you can think of. I mean, that's just a handful, but I've worked with major brands from PepsiCo to the Country Music Awards, People's Choice Awards, like all the red carpets and celebrities. And while I loved it, my marriage brought me back to Connecticut and we bought a home and I was married and together with my ex for about 15 and a half years in total. And then a little over, gosh, several years ago now, we divorced. And the past 3+ years, I've really found myself on a healing journey, healing from not only divorce, but then realizing that I was married to a narcissist. So I had more healing to do. And even though I know healing's not linear and we're always going to continue to heal and evolve, the past 3 years, I really felt that through that healing that God really put on my heart to share my story, to share the lessons learned. And that's how my podcast, Second Act Sessions, was born. I really felt that I had the gift of gab. So I felt like, why not put that to good use through a podcast and just share my story, and not only just my story, but like bring on guests, such as yourself, who've gone through whether it be grief or loss or pain and suffering, or even just people that are doing amazing things and healing others out there. I think that's what I really want to bring to the table. Just really share my story, but other people's story to hopefully inspire others, bring, knowledge and healing and just hope, really. And I feel like we live in such a crazy world that I really just want to be a little bit of light in the corner out there. And through my podcast, that's what I'm hoping to do.
Well, that's what I love about your personality, and I love your show Second Act Sessions. I love that because I think all of us do in a lot of ways get caught up in grief. We get caught up in our trauma that we are in, and that's not to write that off, by the way, because especially like you brought up too, and we're going to dive into a bit about narcissism. When
Sure.
you go through experiences like that, it's very easy to feel trapped and stuck in that, and
Yes.
trying to figure out how do I navigate out of it and how do I
Yes.
heal myself. And
Yes.
that phrase of second act sessions, I love because I don't think oftentimes we see it or give ourselves the ability to recognize that we do have a second
Right.
chance at life and we have an opportunity
Yes.
to start over again.
Yes. And we might even have second or third acts or fourth acts for that matter. But I think in this society, I feel like a lot of it has been very scripted. Like you're supposed to do, you go to school, you graduate, you get married, you get a great job, you have children, you buy a home. And it just feels very scripted a lot of times. And then when something like that happens that blows up your whole world, I think a lot of, you have one of two things. You can persevere and keep moving forward, or you can just end up in fetal position in the corner. And I chose not to do that, obviously, because we only have this one life. And I really think it's all what you make of it. And like I said, I'm in my second act now. and I'm looking forward to my future. I'm doing something totally different. I'm quite an entrepreneur. Not that I ever set out to be that, but I'm finding that's who I am through starting my own event planning business and now my podcast. I mean, it's bittersweet. It's exciting, but also nerve wracking because it's new and it's different and it's scary and frightening, but it's also exciting and challenging in a positive way. And at the same sentence, at the same time. So like I said, I'm really just trying to help others, to share my story and let people know that just because you get divorced or you're an empty nester now or you lost your job, that it doesn't mean it's over. I think you can just look at it differently, look at it as a blessing that maybe God is pushing you towards something else and how to take away that person or that job to push you to where you need to go, because he certainly did that in my life. Like, I don't know, because of the abuse that I experienced, I don't know or think I was strong enough to leave myself. And so thankfully, through prayer, I really got my answer. And here I am, forging a new path for myself. And it's exciting. I'm very busy and I've met so many amazing people through this whole process, such as yourself. And yeah, I mean, you gotta just keep going. That's all we can do in this life.
Well, I think that's what everybody who goes through grief, loss, and trauma
Yeah.
struggles with. And I love how
Yes.
you just phrased it, by the way, is the scripted life versus the
Yes.
unscripted life. And,
Yes.
in my own life, I'll share, I was brought up in a lot of ways where it was go out there, go to school, get a job, get married, have
Yes.
kids. Like there's all these steps we put people in. And
Yes.
then life comes, big swinging with the hammer and says, no, sorry, you're going to go through divorce. You're going to lose a child. You're going to lose a parent. You're going to lose that job. You're going to move over here. You're going to be in this career field versus this one.
You're gonna
And
lose friends. You're gonna lose so many things.
all of a sudden, that scripted life that we were on, boom, we just get knocked off it. Now we're on this path
Yes.
over here going, this is unfamiliar. I wasn't told this.
Yes.
I don't know
Yes.
what this is or what this means.
How do I
Um,
navigate it also? It's nerve-wracking at times.
It really is. But I also find, just like you brought up faith, and I love that you have faith, by the way, because that's what's helped me
Oh,
get through a
great.
lot of my hard challenges. Um, when we oftentimes have those doors close on us, it's very heavy feeling. But when we also
Yes.
walk into that unknown, which is why I say that grief is a personal transformation journey from who you
Yes.
were into who you're becoming. God
Yes.
closes those doors for a reason because you don't
Yes.
belong there. It's not your
Mm-hmm.
place. And
Mm-hmm.
when he does put you where you belong, it's very uncomfortable and it's relearning
Yes.
a lot of things.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
after a while, you're gonna get that feeling of, you know what? I was supposed to be here. And that stuff I went
Yes.
through, by the way, led me to this journey that I'm on.
Well, and that was just gonna add to that is that, yeah, and God will use everything for good. So everything that you went through, look what you're doing now. You're channeling that into a podcast. Same for me. Like, I went through a divorce and abuse for 15 and a half years that I've had to climb out of and build myself back up. And now I'm helping others. I'm the person that people go to if they need help with their relationship or they have some advice, and I'm also older, obviously. So I just feel like with anything in life, we can learn from it, we can grow from it, and it's all about perspective and changing making our pain into our purpose and our mess into our message. I mean, we have to give back, and that's just how I feel, and like helping others in that respect. So
Well, I think
the
that's
whole
what
goal.
I'm coming to realize is what you just said. I know you mentioned before we got on the show that you're 50 and you by don't many, any means
Oh,
look like
thank
you're
you.
50.
Yeah, I
Um,
know it's frightening.
I got the opposite problem. I'm 38 and people think I'm 40 something for whatever reason. Um,
You poor
but
thing.
I've been learning as I go through life that there's things I know now that I didn't know then. And there's all these looking back where when we're children and we make a mistake, we're hard on ourselves. And I think as we get older, we start to say, you know what I thought was hard at 20 was actually easy. What I thought was hard at 30 was easy. Now I'm in this new
Yes.
thing, by the way, at 40 or 50, where you and I are at. And we're going, this feels hard. But then we look back and say, but we went through all these hard things in the past and we survived them. We're still here.
Exactly.
And
Exactly.
I wanted to ask you too, you went through narcissistic abuse with a relationship, and not a lot of people today, I think, have a grasp on that because the word narcissist and narcissism gets thrown around like, diamond in a handbag. And basically, what I try to share with people is that it's much, much more than just a term and a label. And it's very much a form of abuse that's very emotional and very mental abuse. And what people that go through that kind of thing really get faced with when they do break out of those relationships is having to rediscover who they are at,
Yes.
at a
Yes.
core. And having
Yes.
to relearn how to trust themselves. And I wanted you to elaborate a little bit on
Everything.
what
Yeah.
was that like when you went through that, and what was that healing journey like for you?
Well, it was brutal. I mean, I would say I cried for all of 2024, and it's phases. And I think, there's stages of grief and healing, and I went through all of them. But what I didn't realize is that I feel like you can take 2 steps forward and you take 10 steps back sometimes. And it's really, it's a journey, it's a process. And I think anyone who's going through any sort of healing or trauma, just be patient with yourself and just give it time, because time truly does heal all wounds. But for me, because the people that have been in narcissistic relationships, primarily marriages that I've spoken to, didn't understand they were married to a narcissist. We just thought there's something wrong with this person. It truly is a like disorder. It's a sickness. It's a mental disorder. They know what they're doing, but we are just reeling from it. And what they do, it's not like one day you wake up and they're a different person. I mean, it's kind of like that, but it's gradual. You may have amazing good days and a handful of bad days, and then some good days peppered in, and then really bad days, and then it just gets worse and worse. They strip you down. They break you down emotionally. They make you feel like this big. So you become very dependent upon them, reliable on them. They actually strip you of your identity, and a lot of times they isolate you. And is what happened in my case, and so many others who've suffered, who've had experience with narcissists and suffered from that. So the healing was the first year for me. I truly was, I think, in denial, like shock and denial, I would say. Like I went through the motions. I was like, great, I'm so happy. So first year was amazing, but I wasn't doing the healing. I think I was more just trying to like a deep breath and like realize, okay, you're safe now. It's okay. And then like year 2, year 3 is when all the healing really came up and like bubbled up. And it was anger, resentment, sadness, crying and releasing, just releasing everything. And one of the things I learned right away was that I held on to so much of that emotion and that abuse in my body, so much so that my body was always sick towards the end. I didn't know what was going on. I had gained weight because I think it was my body's way of protecting itself from the abuse. And then as soon as my ex left, and within a few months, the weight fell off. Like I could see, like I was healing emotionally, mind, body, and spirit. Like everything was connected. And I saw the stages of all that healing come to fruition. And it wasn't easy, it wasn't hard, but thankfully I have some amazing friends, amazing family. I found some amazing people online that I really connected with, even if it was like a life coach or a narcissist expert. And a lot of the memes that they put out there were really helpful and timely. And I understood then, and through my healing, what a narcissist was. So the light bulb went on one day. Like I'm reading through the description, and I'm like, check, check, check. Like I had everything. I was like, oh my God, I was married to a narcissist. So I feel like it's a fairly recent term. To your point, it does get thrown around a lot. Everyone's a narcissist, but can be very selfish and self-absorbed. That doesn't necessarily make them a narcissist. A narcissist is a whole breed of its own. They are maniacal. They're master manipulators. They're master gaslighters. Where you say something like, "I didn't say that," and like, "Yeah, you did." "No, I didn't. You're overreacting. You're crazy. I didn't say that." They literally make you think you're crazy, and they break your spirit. And I remember towards the end, my mother at one point was like, "Stephanie, I think he's making you crazy." And he was like, I was miserable. I felt so trapped, so stuck, so miserable that something had to give. And like I've mentioned many times, I got on my hands and knees one day and I said, God, I can't do this anymore. Bawling my eyes out, crying. I said, please, thy will be done. You deal with this. Either fix this marriage or release me. 2 weeks later, my ex came to me and he said, I want a divorce. And I was like, okay. Like I was certainly in shock because I didn't think he would ever do that. But I knew God did. It was very divinely orchestrated, and I'm truly blessed for it. So, as we mentioned earlier, sometimes I think God pushes you where you need to go, and He'll take things out, whether it's friendships, relationships, you name it, jobs, even. He will take it from you to put you on the course so you can find your true purpose and calling, whatever that may be. And so, I think through all my healing, that's what I've realized is that now do love myself because I think for so long I didn't know who I really was. I was just going through the motions, right? Through life, what you're supposed to do. I wasn't really going inward and reflecting and understanding what did I like, what didn't I like. I didn't understand how to set boundaries. And that's not even with a partner, romantic partner. I even mean with friendships. I was a giver. I'm very empathic. I give, give, give. And the problem was I didn't realize that so many people just took. They weren't really my friend. They just liked my light and they were stealing my energy. And then I was so drained from not only my ex, but even friendships that I saw were narcissistic in nature as well. So it really, through healing, really opened my eyes to not only what I was dealing with in my marriage, but also what I've been dealing with in friendships. And so that's been great because now I really do know myself. I love myself. I have self worth and I know how to set healthy boundaries for myself. So that's been a game changer. And it's something I would say anyone listening, please like get in touch with yourself before you go into a marriage or rush into a relationship or even a friendship. Just know what's important to you. I know we should love everyone, but that doesn't mean we're a doormat either. And that's a big distinction I had to learn. We want to be good Christians in my case and be loving and generous to others, but it doesn't mean we let people walk all over us and abuse us. So and when you identify that and can stand up for yourself, that's a form of self-love as well. And that's something that's taken me a while to not only learn, but like to now apply in my life.
Well, well, that's what's really hard about going through narcissistic abuse is learning how to set boundaries because I think a lot of us get caught in that place of people pleasing. And I don't say that lightly,
Yes.
by the way, but I say you end up in this
No.
place of making
Yeah.
excuses. And,
Hmm.
one of the most common things you'll find, by the way, if you suspect you have a narcissist in your life, whether that's a spouse or a friend or whoever it is that when you start calling that behavior out or questioning
Yes.
it, all of a sudden you'll start finding the people around them will just say, well, it's just who they are. Oh, it's just how they act. Oh, they just say
Hmm.
this because of
Hmm.
X. And you'll catch on really quickly that there's lots of
Yes.
excuses for that person, but the focus
Yes.
always turns to you being the problem. And that's
Yes.
where what Stephanie said is very true. You become this crazy person in your head because what
Yeah.
you're not able to do in those moments with narcissistic abuse is separate what's going on with the narcissist
Yes.
versus who are you. And that's why
Yes.
I've always encouraged people that go through that kind of abuse because I've been through it. And
Right.
I
That's
say the
right.
real way for you to figure that out is to get far, far away from it, cut it out of
Yep.
your life. And a lot
100%.
of people are going to say, well, Chris, that's harsh. That's rational. I'm going to tell you right now, it's
Mm-mm.
not because
Mm-mm.
the reason I
Get away
say it,
from.
the reason I say isn't truly, so much about getting away from them. What I focus on more is you need space away from things to figure out who you are and reclaim
Get in
yourself.
touch with yourself. You need to get in touch with
Yeah,
yourself. Yes,
because
100%.
when you're constantly questioning yourself and making excuses all the time and saying, well, it's just this or it's just that,
Hmm.
what you're effectively doing is tolerating and allowing that behavior to happen. And
Absolutely.
what narcissists like to do that Stephanie pointed out, which is very, very true of a narcissist, is they slowly chip away at you slowly. And so
Yes.
this is not something that's going to be a one-time big blow up,
Nope.
but it's going to be years of something building.
Yep.
And when you recognize the pattern, it's very, very hard to heal from because in many ways you get
Yeah.
angry at yourself for allowing it and tolerating
Yes.
it. And so
Yes.
you're mad at yourself, you're mad at the narcissist for doing certain things, and then you end up in that
Hmm.
place of having to rebuild. And that's where I
Yes.
think, I try to tell people that go through it, be kind to yourself because there's going to be moments you're going to be absolutely
Yeah.
pissed at yourself for what you allowed. And
Hmm.
you have to know at a certain point, it wasn't entirely your fault. You didn't know any better and you didn't know how to look for
Exactly.
it. And
Exactly.
so
Exactly.
to be harsh on yourself when you can't see something or be aware of it or even know what it
Right.
is really doing yourself a disservice. But it's to say that now I know what this is and I know what this looks like. I know how I feel when I'm around
Yes.
it and
Yes.
take those opportunities to set boundaries.
Yes. Hmm.
I wanted to ask you what, you've probably been like what, a year or two out from that relationship, from what I understood?
Gosh, no, now it's been like 3 years.
3 years. What,
And literally
what
3 years of healing. That bad.
what would you tell yourself, talking to your 3-year-old version of yourself from 3 years ago? What would you say to yourself now, that version of you then? What would you say now to that person
I would
about
say you're
healing?
going to be you're going to be okay. You're going to get through this. You're going to be okay. You're not alone, and it wasn't you, and you didn't know any better. Because to your point earlier, a narcissist is really good at the love bombing phase. So in the very beginning, they're going to smother you with gifts and compliments and affirmations, and they woo you, and you're like, "Oh my God, this feels like a movie. It feels like a fairy tale." So it's not really your fault. They tricked you. That's manipulation. So they tricked you in. And by the time you're in and you're married, you're in it, it's almost, you feel like it's too late to leave because now you're like, oh my God, what? We're married now. We have a house. It's like, it's almost like they trap you. That's very intentional with them. And they go, and the other good thing that I think I've learned through the healing and working with narcissist experts is that they're very smart. They picked you and me for a reason because they knew we were smart. It's not because we were dumb. They want us because they want to siphon our energy in a lot of ways. It's like a challenge to them. It's like they go after the people that are really good and loving and giving because that's what they need to stroke their ego. They want someone to take care of them and someone also that they can break down, then control. And that's what my ex did as well. And that all narcissists do. It's a very similar pattern. Your stories are just like my stories. The narcissist Alora expert that I work with, her stories are exactly the same. She was married for 30 years. I was together with mine for 15. It's the same story. So, I mean, there is comfort in that though, because they're the same person. They're same, literally, they're crazy. So you don't feel bad, like, what did I do wrong? Initially, you're like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? And it's not you. It really isn't. And then I think through that, it just made me stronger healing from it. And now I'm like, okay, if I get any weird vibe from anyone, I'm out. I'm like, nope, it's not worth it. I'm out. And I can spot them
See
like
that?
a mile away. You know what I mean? I can
See,
spot the narcissist.
I'm really glad you said that because I got asked a lot when I went through that, like, well, how do you know they're a narcissist? How do you know this? And I said, you go into a narcissist group with people, and I will preface, by the way, if you go into a narcissist group, there's a people with a lot of anger in there. Please understand they're healing and they're in different various stages of that. But look beyond that anger for a minute. That's what I'm gonna encourage you to look beyond that for a second
Mhm.
and look at patterns. I'm a big person when we're in grief, loss, or trauma. I'm very big about patterns because patterns show us what's real and what's not. And to Stephanie's point, when you talk to somebody who's in a 30-year relationship going through the same abuse and the story's the same exact thing. And then you talk to more people that go through it and you start
Mhm.
seeing the patterns. And then you start sitting
Yep.
there reflecting on your experience. And that's where I had that revelation when I started researching
Yes.
it. One of the first memes I ran into when I was researching narcissism was so
Yeah.
funny. This guy commented and said, "Look, if you're having to research narcissism, there's a 90% chance you got one in front of you." And
Yeah.
I and I
Exactly.
kind of thought I was like, "Holy crap! Like that's
Yes.
comforting. Thanks."
Yes.
But sure
Yes.
enough, I started talking to people. I was going, "Yep, experienced that. Yep, went through that. Yep, that's what
What?
happens."
Wait, did you also
You know?
find too that at one point you're asking yourself, am I the narcissist? And they say that
Yeah.
too is a telltale sign to show you that you are not a narcissist because a narcissist
Hmm.
wouldn't even ask that question because they don't even know they're a narcissist. They know what they're doing, but they don't know that term. Like they don't have any recollection or they don't understand it at all. They're like, what is that? I've never
Yeah.
heard that,
Well, that's what I've told
buddy, you
people.
know?
I've told people a lot, narcissists, if you really want to know a big key indicator of one, they are not capable of empathy and compassion for people. They are
No,
not
nope,
capable of it. And so,
they're not.
if you, by the way, we all have narcissistic traits to a degree. We all do.
Of
And that's
course.
just that's
Right.
just who we are. But, I always tell people if you really want to know if you're in front of one, ask a very empathetic question to somebody. Do one of those
Yep.
things and you can tell right
Yep.
away. Because
Oh yeah.
a normal
Oh
a
yeah.
normal person will say things like, "Oh, snap, I hurt your feelings. I'm sorry I said that," or like, "Hey, I didn't mean
Mhm.
that. I meant this. Can we talk this out?" That's a normal
Mhm.
behavior. A
Mhm.
narcissist will be like, "Well, don't you think?" Or, "Well, don't you think it's this thing over here?" Or like, "It's
Yep.
interesting that you say that." Like they throw these like curveball guilt trip
Yes.
things,
Yes. They'll
really, and
put it
they're
back
very
on
soft and
you.
subtle. Yeah,
Back
exactly.
on you. And then it's your fault. You're just too sensitive. You are just too, we worry too much. It's always your fault. Never, they don't ever take any responsibility for their actions. So
Yeah,
telltale, telltale right there.
Yeah, my I have a in-law family member. It's a narcissist, and a conversation I had to overhear one time was it made me sick to my stomach. That's the minute I knew this person was narcissistic. Was that the conversation that went down with this other person was, well, it's the word that you say and it's how you say it, and you're overly emotional. And I started noticing this boxing of things, and I started
Mm-mm.
sitting there going,
Mm-mm.
I was like, when somebody's coming to the table to work on stuff, you generally don't say things like that because it's very controlling and very
Yep.
manipulative.
Yep.
And you don't, and I can tell by the way when those things come out, this isn't about resolution. This is about who's on top of who in this
Yep.
conversation.
It's all
Um,
control. It's control. That's the bottom line. It's
and it's
control, manipulation, and it's awful.
And so I
Awful.
always encourage people, if you don't believe somebody when they come to you and say, I might be dealing with a narcissistic thing and you want to write them off, please listen to them. Hold space for them, please. Because I can
Yes.
tell you right now, they will come to you and say, here's the situation I ran into and how it played
Yeah.
out. And listen closely to it because you will
Yeah.
catch those, you'll catch it. Gaslighting is the thing you brought up that is a term a lot of people don't understand fully and
Understand
don't
what it
really
is. Yeah.
acknowledge. And
Mhm. Mhm.
I've had my fair share of that in the workplace. I've had my fair share of it with
Yes.
my in-laws, and I've just gotten to that place where I said that used to twist my head in so many ways of like, oh, I'm not saying this right, and oh, I'm not
Yes.
explaining myself enough. If you're having those thoughts, you need to walk away because
Yep.
you're
100%.
you're about to get caught in the mind loop, is what I call it,
Yeah.
and that's not a healthy place for you to be.
No, no, and it's funny you mentioned like trying to like even like talk to mention to others. I ran into a woman at my niece's birthday party, and I just went over to her because she's sitting by herself, and something in me like felt for her. I don't know what it was. Maybe it was God telling me to go over to her. She started sharing her story. I was like, "Oh, honey, sounds like you were married to a narcissist." She's like, "Oh my God, I was." And she's sharing her story, and then I connected her with my narcissist coach that I know that I interviewed. I sent her a bunch of pages to follow just because people need help and encouragement when they're going through it because you feel very alone and very isolated. And you, like I said, you do feel like you're starting to go crazy because they will just twist everything and then you don't know what you're saying anymore. And mine happened to be a litigator. So it was twofold. Like everything got twisted around in an argument, nothing ever got
Mm.
resolved. And it was maddening. And so, like, through my podcast, I'm helping others, but even just meeting people out and about. And if there's anything I can do to help them or guide them to get more help to understand what they're dealing with, I'm happy to help, because
So
it is insane what I went through. I mean, I told stories to my friends and they're shocked. I'm like, well, I'm not going to tell you all this. It's embarrassing, but they felt so bad for me for what I went through.
So, how did you navigate? Because this is one of the things about narcissistic abuse that people don't understand, especially those who've
Hmm.
healed from this kind of abuse.
Hmm.
You're always going to get triggered by someone or something out in
Oh,
the
yes.
environment, even as you're
Yes.
going through this. And I
Hmm.
wanted to ask you, how did you deal with those triggers that would come up? And how did you acknowledge those emotions as they came up? Because I know when you are coming out of that abuse, those things go 0 to 100 in about zero point 0.2 of a second, and it's
Yes. Yes.
very, very hard to control it in a lot of ways.
Hmm.
Well, how did you navigate that for healing?
Well, for me, I think through the healing, once I understood what I was dealing with, and I saw it not only with my ex, but within friendships, that helped me understand the dynamics of it. But there is someone close by who I believe is a narcissist, and they are such a trigger for me. So I just find it hard to be even in their energy space. Like it's hard for me. That's such a trigger. So I know it has nothing to do with like them being mean to me. It's just their energy I can't be around if I see them treat someone else. So for me, I just distance myself. I try not to be in the same room with this person or try to like find moments where I can be there, but that person's not there. Like I try to like step around it, so to speak, and stay away from them. Or as far as friendships, to burn bridges, I just pull my energy back. So if there's someone who I feel has got little narcissistic tendencies, I won't call as much. I won't text as much. I'm not saying I can't be your friend, but I tend to set that boundary by not being so readily available, right? Let them reach out to me, let them make the effort. And sometimes you'll realize if I'm not the one making the effort, there's no friendship because they stop calling. And that happened to one friend. I just stopped reaching out because I didn't like the way I was treated. I even mentioned it one time to her. She didn't care. She didn't change. She wasn't there for me during my divorce. And she was just nasty to me, like a bully and very narcissistic. And I, I didn't connect the dots until afterwards and doing some of the healing that I was like, oh, I think she was a narcissist too. So I just pulled my energy back, stopped responding. Haven't heard from her since. Why do I have
That
to make all the effort? You know what I'm saying? It's like I can't do that anymore. And that for me, by setting that boundary, even pulling my energy back, was a way of honoring and loving myself and not taking the abuse because I know my worth now. I deserve better. I deserve amazing friends who have my back, who love and support me and aren't out to like backstab me or be mean to me. So that's important. And that may mean I only have two or three friends, quality over quantity. That's all I care about, you know?
I think
That's what
that's
matters.
important, when we talk about boundaries, because
Yeah.
there's so many of us wired in the world, by the way, to make other people happy or satisfy
Yes.
other people's needs or make
Hmm.
excuses for other people's behavior. But we never really sit there and acknowledge that, when we're around certain behaviors or certain people, it
Yeah.
creates that energy like you talked about. And
Right.
um, I'm a very my energy center is very open in a lot of ways. So I attract a lot of things in front of me, and I've
Me
had to
too.
learn personally that when I catch on to people like that who are very narcissistic, I keep my distance, and that's a boundary
Yes.
for me. And
Same.
I try to help people when they go through this kind of abuse to understand it really has nothing to do with you, believe it or not. It really doesn't. And it's
It
very
doesn't.
much, I call it the PCM game of narcissists. I call it the power control manipulation game. That's
Yeah.
how they play.
Yeah. That's it.
And I always tell people, if you can't play in that realm and arena, just don't. Just do not
No,
participate.
it's not worth it. It's
Because
not worth it.
I've always said, don't ask why, you keep going to the circus with the clown, like, or why the clown shows up. You gotta ask yourself why you're showing up. And
Yes.
you gotta give yourself that chance to say, I don't like that personality, or this person makes me
Hmm.
feel just off, and where I don't know how to put my
Yeah.
finger on it, but something just doesn't mesh right.
And
And I
and
love
that's
that you have,
okay. And I
yeah,
think that people need to understand that's okay. We don't have to be friends with everyone. I'm not saying we should be mean and not love people and help others, but help the people that appreciate it. Help the people that respect you and value you. And that was to my point. Like, you don't have to be friendly and loving with everyone who walks all over you. Like, we don't have to do that. We don't have to take that abuse, and that's okay. I feel like Gen Xer, my generation was, don't say anything, don't speak up, don't talk back, smile, just do it, be nice, be kind, give, give, give. Well, you're giving so much of yourself away to the wrong people. And that is
mhm.
where the boundary comes in, and really identifying who are the right people in your life. And I'm not saying we should love them, but we can love them from afar. We can wish them well from afar. We don't need to have them in our everyday life.
Well, I love that you said that, because my biggest thing that I tell people to feed off that is the
Hmm.
following: that we're not going to get along with everybody. So stop thinking like that. Just stop it. You're not going to
Exactly.
be
And that's
friends with
okay.
everybody. And guess what? That's
No.
okay. And I tell
Yeah.
people who've been through narc abuse, because we're a very easy trigger to that stuff. I say, hey, look,
Yep.
the best part about narcissists is, by the way, they don't hide their strategy. They show it to you. So that you already have one step ahead that they don't even see.
Yep.
And then on top of
Exactly.
that, just let them go on their journey. Just let them be. It's fine. Just let
Yep.
them go.
Let
And
them go.
God will take care of it. It'll be fine.
Exactly.
But I also,
Exactly.
but I also say, when you do that, by the way, you push them out. You make room for the people who are supposed to come to you. And that's where, by the way, when you heal from this kind of thing and you actually heal yourself, like Stephanie talked about earlier, you start attracting the right people. You start attracting the people that support you, that are kind to you, that understand you. They don't try to control you, but they try to walk with you.
I've seen that in my own life. I've had a lot of, in this 3 year of healing, I had two friends ripped out of my life just randomly, like done, gone. They're both three actually. I'm sorry. Two were definitely narcissistic. One was just weird. And I've seen, though, I may have lost them, but God brought in two amazing friends. I've just become closer with some other friends, and it's such a blessing. It's like everything always works out. Like, don't fret, don't worry. Your people are going to find you. And when you do the healing, when you do all that inner work, you are definitely gifted and I guess rewarded with like-minded people that follow you, like, or you're attracted to you because you've done the healing work and you're standing in your own worth and your own power. And that's really empowering and powerful, and people want that and want to be around that energy. So I feel like that's when all the right people can be brought into your life.
Well, that's why I'm really glad I got to meet you, for example, because, here we are, two people that have gone through that kind of abuse, and
Yeah, I
it's
know.
not any way, shape, or form
No.
fun.
No.
But we're on this path together now, and we're not even in that place of complaining about it or living in it, but we're in this place of empowering other people to
Yes.
recognize what's going
Yes.
on, but also
Hmm.
empowering them in a different way, which is make choices that are supportive of you and what you want out of
Yes.
your life. And
And
to
that's
Steph,
okay. And I think people are worried about, oh, I'm selfish. Well, it's okay to be selfish every now and then. Like, that's
yeah.
self-love. Like, you're not being like egotistical and, self-absorbed and nasty, but like, it's okay to put yourself first and love yourself and do things for yourself. But I feel like that was never really taught to us, or at least to me, it wasn't. Like, it wasn't really like modeled, maybe, or even taught or embraced. It was just like, give, 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 be of service, which is fine. But there's a lot of evil out there and there's a lot of evil people. And unfortunately, they're attracted to the light. And that's what happened in my case and in yours. You're a good person and they take advantage of that and they capitalize on that and like pounce on us in a lot of ways because we're so nice.
Yeah, well, that's, what like you said earlier, I'm thinking about a lot of thoughts as you're talking, but,
Sorry, I know.
I've gravitated to so many people that are kind and supportive and loving and caring. And
Yeah.
on top of that, the big one, by the way, is that I've run into people that have helped me heal. And,
Yes. Yes. Me
what,
too.
and what I'll share too, by the way, like we wouldn't be doing our podcast, by the way, either of ours, had we not met
Yep.
these people. And so,
Thank you. That's why I have no regrets because it got us to where we are now. We can't have regrets, you know?
and now we're
Go through
talking to
that
people every
to
day
learn and
on
help
our
others. Yes.
Yeah, but we're on our podcast every day talking to people and helping others. And those people are aligned with us. And that's what I try to encourage everybody going through grief or abuse or loss is that find your tribe, find your people. Like I love getting to talk to people like you, Stephanie, because we're on the same wavelength and we're not
Yeah.
trying to play the pyramid game. We're right here walking together.
Yeah.
And that's the
Exactly.
and I think, when you find that, and by the way, God will put that on your path, people. I'm just gonna tell you that. When you clear out all the bad, negative energy stuff out of there,
Yep.
God will put all that on your path for you. And
Absolutely.
you'll sit there one day, like Stephanie said, friends got ripped out that were not meant to be. God inserted friends that were supposed to be.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when you are in that collective mindset like that, there's just so much beautiful things of life that can happen.
Yes. Yes.
So
100%. I mean, and I like I said, I don't have regrets, but I also, people are like, oh, do you miss your ex? I never missed him. I knew it was wrong. So I never missed him. I still had to grieve the death of our marriage. And then I had to grieve like going through all this abuse. So I had a lot of grief I had to process, but not once did I look back and say, oh, I wish I miss him. No. Once he was gone, I was so relieved. I felt lighter. I was happier. But then obviously I had to do more healing. But I would say to anyone listening that life is too short. Like you should really do what makes you happy. Like at the end of the day, whatever makes you happy, whatever gives you joy, follow that, follow your passion. Whoever that is with, like whether it's, through friendships. I mean, like I always say how I was the loneliest married person you had ever met. And now I'm single, but I'm not lonely. And I'm alone, but I'm not lonely. So there's such a difference in that. And like I'm not
mm,
lonely because I'm so in love with my life right now. I'm so blessed. I had so much gratitude for my family and friends and I've given birth to this podcast. So I'm really savoring my second act right now and it's all mine to write and it's exciting, nerve-wracking but exciting.
I really love that for you because that's what I think a lot of people need to do in the grief process is learn how to fall in love with yourself. And I wanted to
Yes.
ask you some powerful questions about acceptance and forgiveness because those are two things that come up a lot in my conversations with coaching and this podcast. And one of them is about acceptance. I think you hit on that a little bit, but what was
Yeah.
it like rediscovering self-acceptance for you? And my other question I have for you is what are your thoughts on forgiveness and how did you
Yeah.
work through self-forgiveness and, maybe forgiveness for your ex-husband if that was even a case on the table for you?
Yeah. I think as far as acceptance, I think I had to accept, for me, what was hardest to accept is that thing that I thought I was going to have in my life was ripped away and it was completely gone. Like the life I thought I'd have, the money I thought we'd have, all the trips we took, like the lifestyle was gone. And that was more upsetting than even being like divorced. I didn't care if I was divorced. I didn't care about the stigma associated with that. For me, it was accepting like, oh, okay, now I'm alone. Now I have to navigate this life by myself. And what does that look like? It's not going to be the same. So acceptance for me was a little bit more accept, like even when I went to travel to a trip in Italy, I had to accept that like I wasn't at a five-star hotel. Like, and that's okay. But I know that sounds like superficial, but it was almost like dose of reality. Oh, okay. Like now you're not going to have this glamorous life anymore, but that's okay. I can still have a glamorous life, doing what I want to do. It doesn't have to be a five-star hotel. So that was okay. I accepted the fact that he was gone and that was good. But it was more like grappling with accepting my new life and how it was going to navigate moving forward. But then to your second point, what was the second point about again? About you were asking?
My biggest question is about forgiveness because that's a very
Yeah.
loaded topic for a lot of people, and
Yeah.
I'm just really curious to get your perspective on what
Yeah.
forgiveness means to you and maybe how you forgave yourself and others as you went through your divorce.
I mean, I think for me as a Christian, it's like we're always supposed to forgive. So for me, I can forgive people, forget. That's for me is what I can't ever do. I can forgive you. Forgiveness is for yourself. It's not for them. It's forgive them for yourself so you can release them, so to speak, and let them go. I mean, do I ever want to see my ex again? Do I ever want to talk to my ex again? Hell no. I forgive him to a point, but also because if it weren't for everything I went through, right, I wouldn't have my podcast. So I can't really have regrets, and I have to forgive that because God will heal me. He has healed me. He will use everything for good, and I know He has so much more in store for me and more amazing, wonderful things planned for me. So like I have that faith, and that keeps me going. But I guess yes, I can forgive. I just can't forget. So even friendships, I can forgive you, but I don't ever want to talk to you again, or I don't ever want to see you again, and that's okay. And it's not easy to forgive, and it does take a while because I do feel you need to grieve. You need to go all those phases of anger, sadness, whatever, whatever the stages are. And then on the other side of that, that's when I think forgiveness comes into play. And I think forgiveness time frame is different for everyone, right? I mean, for me, it's been
Mhm.
like 3+ years. For others, it might be 20 years. And that's okay. I think long as you eventually get to that stage, because I really do think forgiveness is for yourself. It's not for the other person. It's for you to forgive them so that you can release them and not carry that weight, emotional weight around with you, which is just going to weigh you down, and you don't need it. God has so much more in store for you. And I think we need to look towards the future and be positive and know that I'm still standing. He didn't break me. I'm not going to have a pity party for myself. I'm going to like literally like alchemize this and turn it into something positive, and change that dynamic and help others. Because
Well,
honestly, I think if I couldn't do that, I would go crazy. Like you have to do something to get over it. And I think that's also part of my healing in a lot of ways is giving back.
I think that's a beautiful way to give back. And I just want to say I appreciate your perspective on forgiveness because the reason I bring that up is when I went through my own narcissistic abuse journey, I got told by many people around that I need to just forgive people and I need to give them this. And I
Mm,
kept going, why am I giving forgiveness to the perpetrator all the time? What's that
yes.
about?
Yeah.
And so I've modeled it on my show, my coaching, and I share this with people. Start with forgiving yourself. Go this way
Yes.
first. Don't stop going
Yes.
here, turn that finger around and point it at
Yep.
yourself.
Yep. Yep.
And by the way, like Stephanie said, forgiveness is an individual journey. Nobody can tell you how or when or if you need
Yes.
to. Nobody can do that for you
No.
other than
No.
yourself. But I
Yes.
will say that I learned self-forgiveness was a very powerful tool because what I
Yes.
came to, I had a lot of anger one day over what happened and what got said and how I got
Yeah.
treated.
Of
And
course.
um, one of my podcast guests did 2 episodes with me about forgiveness. And I sat
Hmm.
down, by the way, it was very hard that night, but I started writing about forgiveness to myself. And I
Wow.
wrote down at the top of my paper, I need to forgive myself for dot, dot, dot. And I sat
Hmm.
there and said, what did I tolerate and what did I allow? And what
Yes.
situations did I put myself in? And
Hmm.
what did I not listen to inside myself that caused those things to happen?
Yes.
And
Yes.
I asked those questions, by the way, because those are all about me. They weren't about anybody else.
Yes.
And I
Smart.
will say, I got very angry writing that stuff down when I had to
Yeah.
sit down and say, I tolerated this behavior that caused me to feel
Hmm.
this way. I
Hmm.
allowed myself to be verbally
Hmm.
abused by people.
Yep.
And I got very angry at myself as I wrote
Hmm.
it. But when I looked back, the day after I wrote that, I sat there and said, you just wrote down the most powerful lessons that you needed to hear and you needed to understand. And the only person, by
Yes.
the way, that was going to give that to you was right here.
You.
Nobody else was going
100%.
to do it. And
Nope.
so
Nope.
I want to encourage listeners and encourage you if I can. And I know you've done a lot of healing work, but when you're able to forgive yourself first for things, that's when
Yes.
you can release so much of that anger. Because
Yeah.
what this does is gives you back your power, it gives you
Hmm.
back your control. It also,
Hmm.
by the way, it gives you back your decision choices so that when you do run
Yes.
into another narcissistic person, like Stephanie talked about earlier, you get to not even react or get angry, but you get to say, that's not for
Mm.
me. I'm all set.
Yes.
I'm all good.
Yep.
I don't
Yep.
need that.
I've
And
had
you
my
can be a more
fill. I'm
free
good.
person.
Yeah, and I think to your point,
Exactly.
forgiving yourself is the first step, and then from that, you are ultimately able to forgive others. But it starts with you, because for a while I lost 15 and a half years of my life. I could have had a child. I could have had a different career, but like, I can't regret that because I'm here now. You know what I mean? So like, maybe that I had to go through all that to get me here. Because if I had done one thing different, I wouldn't. I'd be on a different course altogether. But who knows? Maybe that would have been great too. But once I accepted, forgave myself, and then I was able to forgive him for like the time that I lost. 'Cause I was very angry over that. I was very angry for how much time I wasted. And the therapist once told me, I was like, but I'm so mad. I wasted 15 years of my life. She's like, well, thank God it wasn't 30. It could always be worse. And I'm like, all right, to your point, I get it. It could always be worse, right? I could never have gotten out of that. And where would I be? I almost would probably have been suicidal. I'm serious about that. Like, I was so low. I never would do it, obviously, but like, they break you down so much. But that's why doing the healing work you need to do, because you need to build yourself back up from the inside out. And I did that. And I'm still going to be navigating that. Like I said, healing isn't linear, and you're never really ever fully healed. But from that aspect of it, I feel like I've done the work, and I feel so much better. I'm a different person. And also, I've healed to the point where I'm even better than I was before I was married, right? Because that person
Mhm.
didn't know myself as well as I do now. I'm so much more in touch with myself that I had wished I'd done like therapy and whatnot even before I got married. So I will say, anyone listening, please just get to know yourself before you get into relationships or anything like that, because you're going to be bringing your own baggage if you don't heal that, and they're going to be bringing their baggage, and that's just a recipe for disaster in a lot of times. And that's why I think there are so many divorces, because people aren't really going inward, knowing and loving themselves and knowing their self-worth. Because if you don't love yourself, you really can't love someone else properly. That's what I believe.
I couldn't agree with you more about that, Stephanie. And as we wrap up the podcast, you said something very, very powerful that I want
Oh,
listeners to hear
I did.
again.
Lovely.
Yes, is
Like,
that
I'm shocked sometimes if I
when
do.
you when you go through grief and trauma and loss and even narcissistic abuse in particular, that one I'm going to point out is that you're never going to be that same person you were. That person died a long time ago. What you are doing, by the way, is stepping into who you're becoming. And that's why what Stephanie just brought up about doing the inner healing work, fixing your baggage, because we always can, I try to find the right way to phrase this, but I'll say it in whatever fashion. It's so easy to
Excellent.
point out everybody else's mistakes. It's always easy to
Yes.
point out what other
Hmm.
people screw up or say or whatever.
Hmm.
It's
Hmm.
so hard to look within. And when you
Hmm.
can actually take time to look within yourself and accept yourself fully for all the good and bad that you are, because to be
Yes.
really honest, you're the worst critic of yourself.
Oh,
Everybody else
100%.
will, people will see this much of it, but you get to see all of
Yes.
it. And
Yeah.
so,
Yeah.
I've been with my wife for 16, 17 years, and I try to tell people, to your point about marriage, by the way, marriage
Hmm.
isn't easy. I don't know who
No,
put that
no,
idea in everybody's head, but
no.
it's not
It's
easy.
so hard. Every day is a battle sometimes. I mean,
Well, I
hopefully
mean,
my next marriage won't be, but you're going to have ups and downs. It's normal.
I always like to share that, you're dealing with a whole different person who's a different personality, different background growing up, different life experiences, different career paths than you. And so, because there's so much difference there, you're not always going to see eye to eye. You're
No,
not
no.
always going to be on the same page. And,
Right.
in a lot of ways, there's this mindset of things don't work out, I can just get divorced. And it's like, well, you're now not only shortcutting things in certain ways, but you're also
Yep.
missing an opportunity for yourself to grow. And
Yes.
that's where
Yes.
I try to
100%.
encourage, because my grandfather told me this when I got married many years ago, and I never forgot it. You
Oh,
always need to grow together when you're in marriage. And if you're not
yes.
growing together, by the way, it's not going to work out. And
100%.
if you're not able to balance out those days with people,
Hmm.
or mesh in a certain way,
Hmm.
it's going to be very, very difficult. And whether
Right.
that means that relationship just wasn't meant to be, or it wasn't meant to continue, or
Yes.
you just have things to work on, give yourself that opportunity
Yes.
to improve yourself, because like you
Yep.
said, life is short, and guess what?
Life is so short.
Nobody walking this planet is perfect at all.
No.
Nobody is.
And no
Um,
one has it figured out. They may act like they do. No one has it figured out. We're all just navigating it. We're all the same. We're all just humans. None of us are perfect. And so we just got to take it day by day and put one foot in front of the other and do the best you can. And all we have is today. Tomorrow is not promised, and the past doesn't exist. So all we have is the now. And I try to live in the now every day. That's important for me to survive this crazy world.
Well, to your point, I'm going to end it on this one here really quickly, but I've been watching Touched by an Angel lately. I love that show from the 90s.
Love that. Yeah, that's
And
great.
and the gal Monica, she's a little redhead Irish lady who plays the actress in the show. She keeps telling people who are in very hard places going through grief. I watched one last night, and she always says, God loves you no matter what you did, no matter if you hurt somebody, you love them, you right or wrong, you go through pain, you go through suffering, you go through a loss. God still loves you either way. And so
100%.
I found it really powerful from that place to have a little compassion toward yourself. And I would love for you
Yes.
guys listening, if you are going through something right now, please take Stephanie's words of advice throughout the show today. Be compassionate towards yourself and realize
Yes.
life is short. Give yourself your second act. Give it to
Yes.
yourself. Right?
Yes.
The first one
100.
may have been very up and down and all around, but
Yep.
guess what?
Yeah.
You learn from it. So go to the
Yes.
second act where it smooths
Yeah.
out a little bit.
Exactly. And enjoy it. Just take it day by day and enjoy your life. That's all you can do.
So, Stephanie, as I wrap up the podcast, I normally ask my guests a couple questions. One of them is if you see somebody going through grief or someone who feels stuck in grief, what is one thing you would share with them to help them navigate that journey just a little bit easier?
I would honestly just say, just pray. Pray to God because He is always there. He's always listening. I'll pray for you. But I just say, if you are just in it and you don't know where to go, you're feeling trapped, you're upset, you're depressed, just get on your hands and knees and ask God for help. And He will bring someone to help you, or He will show you something to help you get through it. And He will show you that you are not alone. And that for me was a game changer. And so I give all glory to God every day. And you don't even need to be super religious. Like I don't believe you need to go to church every Sunday necessarily. Just know that God loves you, like you said, no matter what, and He's always there for you. And you're never alone.
That's a beautiful message because that's my faith in God is what's got me through after losing my child.
Yes.
And I couldn't agree more with you
Oh,
on that one.
yeah, I
Um,
can only imagine that. And that's the other
and
thing. I also think if you think you've gone through so many bad things, someone always has it worse. Like, so what I went through pales in comparison to what you went through losing a child. So everyone's going through something. So I think that's when we do have to have a little compassion and patience and understanding. But we're all grappling with something,
And
unfortunately. But
and to build off of what you just said there, by the way, because I share this with everybody, don't compare your grief journey to anybody
no,
else's. Don't
no,
do that
no,
because what I'm going to
nope,
share is there is no 12-step program for grief.
nope,
There is no you can do it Stephanie's way or Chris's way. It doesn't exist. But it's
nope.
through the stories of our experiences, through Stephanie's story, through Chris's story, through Jessica's story. Anybody you want to talk to that's gone through something, through
Yeah.
their stories, you will hear how to find your own grief journey. And that's the
Yes.
power of when we can have compassion and empathy towards others and listen to their story, listen to their
Yeah.
experience. It
Hmm.
helps everybody tremendously. Stephanie,
Yep.
thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that. And I wanted to ask
Oh,
you if listeners want to connect with you after this
sure.
podcast, and I highly recommend that they do because you're an
Yeah,
awesome person.
please.
Where can
Thank
they
you.
find you?
Yeah, so my secondactsessions.com is my website. All my information is there, but my podcast, Second Act Sessions, is on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. I'm also on YouTube, on Instagram, Second Act Sessions. Please like, subscribe, and follow. I have some great episodes, a lot of great experts that I love to share their knowledge with everyone. And yeah, so please come join me as well.
I love that. Well, Stephanie, thank you so much for being on the show today. For listeners, I want to let you guys know when you get done listening to this episode, go in the show notes. You'll find Stephanie's links to all of her website, her podcast, and her social media as well. Like I said, reach out to her. She's a beautiful human being who's got a lot of experience, and she also has great guests on her podcast, by the way. So go check that out. So,
So much,
Stephanie,
Chris.
again,
I
thanks for
appreciate the
being on the
time.
podcast. You're
You
welcome.
got it. Thanks so much. Take
And I want
care.
to thank all of our listeners for joining Stephanie and I on today's episode of the Empower Grief Journey podcast. If this episode resonated with you, please share it with somebody you know who could benefit from her story. For more episodes that are designed to empower you and support you, visit empowergriefjourney.com and subscribe to this podcast. You can find us on Apple and Spotify. The Empower Grief Journey is all about honoring your journey, embracing your emotions, and finding strength in your own time. I want you to know you're never alone on this journey, and together we can navigate grief with courage and compassion. Until next time, be kind to yourself and take your grief journey one step at a time.